Is open world gacha fatigue real? I'm assuming this video by Genocide is going to go through all of the different open world gachas that we currently have. A lot of gacha games have always tried to copy the Genshin formula, or at least innovate off of the Genshin formula, and only a few have really succeeded. And I do feel like a lot try too hard that they don't form their own identity. I was interested in seeing this video to see exactly what it's talking about, because I have no idea.
There are currently 6 gacha games released that are 3D open world, with another 10 on the way.
Wait, only this many released? So we've got Genshin, Wuthering Waves, Tower of Fantasy, Enfield, NTE, and what is fucking this? 7 Deadly Sins. Oh, is it 7 Deadly Sins? Oh, never mind then, never mind. I thought it was something different. Never mind, I don't know what this is. 6 games released
that are 3D open world, with another 10 on the way. That's
Jesus.
A total of 16 3D open world gacha games. When will the madness end?
I mean, I don't think that's too bad, to be fair. If you think about the general amount of open world RPG games, I don't think there's a limit to the amount of 3D open world gacha games that one can have before it's quote-unquote too much. But a lot of these don't innovate on the open world gacha genre. They kind of just copy what their predecessors have done and add like one new thing to make it seem a little bit more interesting. At least the ones that I've seen that are upcoming. The current ones that are out and doing it well are doing it really well. But there's others that weren't mentioned in his original 6 as well that I would argue kind of belong on the list, but for other reasons.
We got Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Tower of Fantasy, Arknight's Enfield, 7 Deadly Sins Origin, Neverness to Everness, Azure Permelia, Rewinding Cadence, Honkai Nexus Anima, Unending Dawn, Silver Palace, Wang
Honkai Nexus Anima didn't even look open world to me.
Anyway, Barca Pure, Project 2/3, Dragon Sword Awakening, and I'll add in Ananta as a special exception since people won't stop talking about it in regards to 3D open world gacha games.
Even though it's not a gacha game at all. As far as we know.
I probably even missed some, and who knows how many others haven't even been announced yet. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Since there's so many 3D open world gacha games releasing, there's some question to ask. Is there open world gacha fatigue? Which will be the first to die? And who is making these games? Let's address some.
I think there's definitely some kind of fatigue for the open world gachas, and I think it's this is going to sound crazy. I think it started after Wuthering Waves. I don't think Wuthering Waves caused it and it didn't make anybody feel open world gacha fatigue, but because Wuthering Waves was so good after like a year before any other open world 3D gacha games really came out and took the market by storm, they really had a lot to live up to because it wasn't just a proof of concept anymore. It wasn't just Hoyoverse dominating the market with all of these different genres. It wasn't just Hoyoverse with the massive 3D open world anime RPG gacha game and a turn-based and everything else. They dominated that, but then WooWar came and showed everybody that it's doable by another company as well. And then I feel like everybody started to try do it, and only few can actually pull it off.
Some of these questions in this video, but first, determine what the criteria for an open world 3D gacha is. I'd say the important aspects are 1, as an open world where a large part of the gameplay
Number 1, an open world. Number 2, it's a 3D game. And number 3, it's a gacha.
Is about exploration. 2, has a gacha system related to pulling characters. And 3, you can jump. Why does jumping matter? Because an open world game with exploration doesn't really exist in this genre if you can't maneuver around with ease.
Sure. Jump. Enfield is an exception here because yes, you can jump, but jumping doesn't really do jack shit. You need the other stuff to be able to explore with ease. Jumping, we barely go anywhere with.
Feels wrong. Ever sat in an MMO town and just jumped around while in a Discord call? Now, this giant boom for open world gachas all began with the release of Genshin Impact, making billions of dollars. And since then, there's been a crazy upsurge of games with similar systems.
Exactly.
I'm noticing a lot of strangely similar UI elements in games, or denominations of currency being 160 per pull. The combat relying on 3 to 4 characters, swapping between them and using a basic attack skill and ultimate. The end game? I'll have a multi-character swap combat with a timer-based end game with tanky enemies that pose no real danger.
Daring today,
That's what I'm getting kind of fatigued about at this point for gacha games, to be fair.
Rock, make one of the first 2 areas be a Chinese-inspired anime fantasy world with characters whose names I can't pronounce without looking like a guaylo.
What's a guaylo?
We see these similar systems over and over, and you bet a majority of these new games are going to have these copy-pasted again and again. Now,
and this is what I mean. Not many games try to innovate on it. I feel like WooWar innovated on it really well with the intro and outro execution skills. I feel like that really made the combat feel a lot more fast-paced and reactive. There's other games that have kind of just done similar things, right? NTE, for example. I don't think it feels that different to WooWar's, just maybe a bit slower, which is interesting. But I still like the combat it's just not innovative.
This isn't to say games are just the same because they share a few systems. On the contrary, many of these games are completely different. Azure Premilia, for instance, is a 3D open world game with Pokemon monsters, while Wang Yue is a 3D open world with Pokemon monsters in a city! Or how about Neverness to Everness, where you have a sprawling open world urban environment where you deal with SCP-like anomalies, compared to Varsapura, where you deal with SCP anomalies in an urban open world. Let's not mention.
Well, that's not even out yet, though, to be fair.
An Anta either. Now, keep in mind.
Neither is an Anta.
I'm not
I guess we're talking about all of them.
Games are copying each other, but
well, they are. That's the thing, and that's fine. I think it's totally fine to copy as long as you're also innovating your own stuff as well, right? If I took this video, right, and I slapped my face on the side of it and changed the color grading of the video, is that a new video? Not really. It's a lazy copy of the video with a couple of added details. But if I make a reaction and I talk about my own things and I do something different with it, then it's different, right? There's enough to substantiate a difference in the video there. How many gacha games have you seen, bro, where the city just looks like Mondstadt? And then people are like, well, it's just a German city. It's like, bro, personally, I have seen 3 German cities in my life, probably. They all look different. Yes, they could easily make it look different while also making it look cool and keep the German identity. You can still innovate on current trends even. It's very possible.
So many are being produced that many styles are starting to overlap even past the game systems, and some gacha players legitimately cannot tell the difference between some of these. At a certain point, players might start getting bored of the similar concepts of switch between characters to fight, pick up chests, do mindless events with a plucky little mascot. Now, one thing I've heard many say is that means you're burned out, or there's
I don't think so.
Open world gacha fatigue. But haven't you noticed that when you play a similar game with similar chores, you get bored faster, and it isn't really your fault? When Genshin released, players could spend hours doing menial tasks simply because it felt so new and fresh, and they loved the style, like picking mint for hours. Even inconveniences or bad quality of life didn't really matter simply because it was just a joy to play. But with every new open world gacha game, players get bored faster, an update rolls around, and rather than being placated for a week, it might only be a couple of days at most.
This is a personal thing, though, in my opinion, because I play Genshin, I play Ruwa, I play Enfield. Those are the main 3. I also dabbled in NTE a little bit. The differences between me and the players that Jen is describing here is I only play for how much I'm enjoying. So for Genshin, I'll play a little bit longer than a couple of days. For Ruwa, I'll play the main quests and then I'll leave it. And then for Enfield, I'll just do the story and I'll log out for 6 weeks until the next one because that's what I enjoy. I'm not going to try force content out of the game that I'm just not enjoying because I just get bored too quickly. And he's right about that. It does get boring the later you go down the line, I guess. You used to play HSR? Yeah, exactly. HSR would have kept me busy for a month, bro, and that's just one quest.
Part of these updates are new story quest, new area, new character to spend polls on, and a couple events with the depth of one of those games you see in a Facebook ad. Is it the player's fault that they grow tired of this? You farmed the same gear, dealt the same RNG, farmed the same materials, grabbed the same chests, done the same dailies, spent the same stamina, lost the same 50/50s, finished the same endgame across maybe 2 to 3 of these games. Rather than the player being burned out or open world games being fatigued, it's the games lacking ingenuity and copying the exact same framework. The issue isn't...
Wait, what was that?
It's the games...
Hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just make it look different so it doesn't look like you just copied it. Who are these? Is this Cyrene and Ameth?
Lacking ingenuity and copying the exact same framework. The issue isn't exactly that...
Oh, just the characters looking similar, I guess.
Open worlds are overdone. It's that games all keep having the same gameplay loop. A small amount of insight into this development can paint a picture. Without stating which game and who gave this information, one of the games listed above that hasn't released is currently in a constant feud between developers and management. The developers want to incorporate unique ideas such as different combat styles and endgame mechanics and make the game stand out more amongst the competition, but every time they attempt to bring new ideas to the table, the management responds with, "That isn't what Genshin does." And
I hate that so much. I wish I knew which game it was.
No, this isn't a joke or an exaggeration.
I think I can tell. I think I know which one. I'm thinking. Something's just telling me for some reason
in a constant feud between developers and management.
that it might be a certain game.
Incorporate unique ideas such as different combat styles and endgame mechanics and make the game stand out more amongst the competition, but every time they attempt to bring new ideas to the table, the management responds with, "That isn't what Genshin does." And no, this isn't a joke or an exaggeration. The very thing that inspired the game in the first place is chaining it to the ground. Ideas are quashed due to there not already being a precedent in the current market. It definitely puts some things into perspective, because who knows how many potential games will refuse to innovate. There's only so many people in the pool of gacha players, and it's hard to increase this pool, so every game is competing.
There's a lot of people in that pool, though. It's more like a fucking mini ocean, to be honest.
For a similar audience. There must be a breaking point where a high-production open-world 3D anime game releases, and it just simply flops because there's a limited pool of players. Which will be the first to end of service? Is it one already released, or one that isn't even announced yet?
Probably TOF, right? Is TOF got any better? I know they tried to do the whole, like, world without the gacha stuff, but they were also pretty bad with that, so I don't know.
Well, the answer's simple. It's already dead.
Oh?
What? Yeah, the first open world 3D gacha died, and probably barely anyone even knows.
Wait, which one?
It's a game called Memento White Shadow. The game...
What? Oh, no.
It was essentially a Genshin-style open world mixed with a Honkai Star Rail-style combat system, but with PvP. The game was seriously underbaked and didn't even last a year before closing, which was a shame because it actually had some promise. But the craziest part is that the game is actually attempting to relaunch, but who knows when that's happening. Now, something that I want to note is that out of all 16 of these games, all except 2 of these are from China. Other 2 being from Korea and 0 from Japan. In an article interviewing Shuhei Yoshida from PlayStation, he said, "One reason why games in China are so strong is because they are made in an environment which allows for hiring a large number of personnel who can work long hours." Acting like Japan didn't invent a word for death related to overwork. Japan invented the playbook for overworking employees. Have you ever...
Oh, it's so sad, man. I love Japan for a lot of reasons, but their work culture is not it. Young worker clocked 159 hours of overtime in a month. Then she died.
Ever met a Studio Mappa employee? Neither of their families. But the point remains that China is...
Bro! Chill.
To overwork. Japan invented the playbook for overworking employees. Have you ever met a Studio Mappa employee? Neither of their families. But the point remains that China is far outpacing other regions when it comes to these games. A friend of mine who works closely with Korean gacha companies has told me that many companies have realized they just can't even attempt to enter this market, and it's better to just work on non-gacha games. Supposedly, some Korean companies were even...
Am I the fucked up one for saying thank God? I feel like if these gacha developers actually put their brains together and came up with a non-gacha game, they would cook so fucking hard, bro, and just put a $30 price tag behind it. Maybe more nowadays, I guess. 60, maybe even 80. Bro, I think they'd cook.
Scared of Neverness to Everness's release, as its scale felt so enormous compared to what they could produce. There are currently 2 Korean gacha games.
Wait, by the way, that means the 159-hour overtime person did 15 hours per day. Insane.
Enormous compared to what they could produce. There are currently 2 Korean gacha games, 7 Deadly Sins Origin and Dragon Sword Awakening. 7 Deadly Sins hasn't really made too many waves overall and had a fairly modest launch compared to most currently out, mostly carried by its IP, 7 Deadly Sins. As for Dragon Sword Awakening, it's supposed to be a spiritual successor to Dragon Nest, however they worked with a publisher named Webzen. Webzen has a bad reputation, but did something that no one expected. They completely screwed over the developers of the game by withholding $2.2 million they owed to them, to eventually lead to a hostile takeover. In retaliation, the developers decided to give infinite free currency to players because they couldn't make money anyways, and they also reached out to Korean YouTubers to cover the subject and put Webzen on blast. Well, now the game is releasing globally, without gacha. Yeah.
What the fuck timeline am I living in, bro? I gotta play this game.
Game's actually a normally priced $30 game now when it releases, since they now have to...
I'll play it. I'll buy it. I'll support it. Deadass. I will play it. I will make an entire video on it unsponsored, unless they want to sponsor me, of course. And let me be honest, because I will be honest.
Self-published and all the drama occurred, it's become a normal game. So now there's only really a single 3D open world gacha game from...
Wait, what's it called? What's it called? Dragon Sword Awakening, 23rd of July, 2026 it comes out. I'll play it. I'll play it. Unless the devs are watching this right now, then I'm not playing it. Unless I get sponsored, of course. I'm kidding.
Outside of China. It is a bit comical that the country to literally invent gacha has fallen behind China in terms of quality and scale of the medium. Hell, China is even starting to ramp up their own anime industry, and who knows where that'll be in a few years. Now let's finally just talk about what some of these games are that are releasing and what I think of them. Azure Camellia is basically Pal World gacha game made by Azurlane devs. From my own experience, gameplay's fun and fluid. Basically Pal World gacha game made by Azurlane devs.
I was about to say there's gravity somewhere there, but...
From my own experience, gameplay's fun and fluid with cool combat and building a town. Easy must play. Rewind.
I never got to play it, but it does look really good. I do want to play as a Primogems, and I really want to play Rewinding Cadence, bro. This game, I think, is going to be the next big gacha. Deadass.
Cadence is a fantasy game with a visual novel timeline system and routes you can take. NPCs that can use AI to communicate and respond, and every character has a stand they fight with. Lots of promise, hopefully turns out well.
D&D-esque as well, where you got to roll a dice for different dialogue choices and stuff. Dude, it looks so good.
Honkai Nexus Anima. Honest.
We'll see. I want to let it cook, bro, because the thing is with Honkai Nexus Anima, I'm not a big fan of auto chess games, but I can probably look past it since it's freaking auto chess. If the rest of the game's good. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I was super underwhelmed. The game's first alpha felt like the game had
I haven't played it.
No direction and needs serious overhaul. It totally has time to change, but the initial impression felt lacking with its gameplay not seeming very interesting.
Well, to be fair, if it was an alpha, that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of the point of an alpha. An alpha, to me, is literally just for bug testing and limit testing. It's not to see if the story's good or the game's good. If it was an alpha, I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's fine to let them cook and see where they go with that. If it was a beta, very valid criticism.
Unending Dawn, not really sure, felt lacking with its gameplay not seeming very interesting. Unending Dawn, not really sure where this game's been, but it's basically an anime Souls-like, which could have some promise, but it's possible they decide not to go the gacha route in the end and make it a full-fledged game. It seems...
Yeah, okay, I would play it either way, to be honest. That looks kind of fire, and I've never seen this before.
It's like it would take actual skill, and that cuts out 99% of potential gacha players. Lots of enemies taken from Elden Ring, but most footage is old and a lot can change. Silver Palace. Game has a ton of potential and its narrative is immediately interesting in a steampunk magic England as a detective. Needs a lot of polish, but its early gameplay felt good.
It needs a lot of optimization. That was the biggest issue with the last beta, but it was very good.
Wang Yue. Recent trailer made it look incredible, but it's hard to create a city that feels meaningful and not large areas with no purpose. Had a lot of creativity from Breath of the Wild building and combining the world's Pokemon. Hopefully it turns out well. Arsa Pura. However's had this come out of nowhere and the game looks incredible overall with a unique graphic style. Only issue is the combat is the exact same as like 5 different open world gachas, so hopefully it'll innovate on that. That's also an issue that Silver Palace has.
But the funny thing about this as well, you know, like Jenna Z was just talking about the alpha looking unfinished and stuff. This wasn't even a beta or an alpha. Do you want to know what that was for Varsapura? It was a job recruitment post. It was literally to recruit people to work on the game. If you watched until the very end, it was a recruitment ad. That game ain't coming out anytime soon.
So 2/3 is probably a tentative name, but the game seemed interesting in a city of clouds and being able to manipulate gravity to navigate around. Felt themed similar to BioShock Infinite. Guess what? You probably swap between characters to fight. Dragon Sword Awakening.
Damn, hey, wait, that looked kind of fire though, I'm not gonna count.
Guess what? You probably swap between characters to fight. Dragon Sword Awakening, technically it's changing from being a gacha, but launched in Korea initially as one. Actually has some unique combo-based combat and feels nice to play with no stamina system, and multiplayer dungeons is awesome. Ananta, I know it isn't a gacha, but everyone...
You know what I want? This is gonna sound fucking ridiculous, but just hear me out for a second. I want a game where gacha is... lore accurate. I want a game where we can go and work a job, not like a 9-to-5 job, but like an interesting Ghost Slayer monster job or whatever, you know, like a hero. And I want to earn the in-game currency that everybody uses, but I want everybody to be able to pull on the gacha and get whatever the fuck they want, and it just changes randomly. I want it to be an MMO so other players can also do the same thing, and it's totally dependent on the server time. That'd be so funny. So Genshin, no. Then you would be able to pull with Mora, is what I'm saying. So like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, maybe? I'm not sure.
I tried it at Tokyo Game Show, and while being impressive, I was unsure the direction the game wanted other than anime GTA, but it was really high quality. But that about wraps up my thoughts on these upcoming 3D open world games, and also on the topic of open world gacha fatigue. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks a bunch for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more, and I hope to see you next time.
That was a great video, bro. Jenna said, my goodness. That was a great video. I really enjoyed that. I hope Jenna ends up going to Gamescom, bro. Yeah, he should make more. That was a really solid video. But overall, yes, I think open world gacha fatigue is indeed a real thing. I don't think it's uber serious. I don't think it's like a terrible thing right now. But if people just keep trying to copy the Genshin formula, it will get old and stale really quick, and people won't even give the new games the time of day. The games that are doing really good things right now are the games that don't just copy Genshin or Wuwa, right? We got Silver Palace, which does things very differently, very different style, very different look. Rewinding Cadence looks quite similar to Wuwa, but plays entirely differently by the looks of things. Looks fucking incredible. The games that I'm looking forward to do something different that you can tell just by looking at it.